Look at any other animal on Earth and you'll notice something. They came dressed. A bear has its fur, a bird has its feathers, a fish has its scales. Every creature is born wearing its own coat except one. You. Human beings are the only animal that has to manufacture clothing and put it on every single morning, or freeze, or get arrested. So here's the weird question. Why? Why did we lose our natural fur and then spend the next 100,000 years covering ourselves back up? The answer involves an ice age, a genius clue hidden in lice, and the single invention that let us conquer the entire planet. To solve this, we have to go way back to when we lost the fur in the first place. Our early ancestors were covered in hair like any other ape, but somewhere between 1 and 2 million years ago, out on the hot African savanna, we started shedding it. The leading theory is that a nearly naked body was a cooling system. It let our ancestors sweat buckets and stay cool while jogging after prey for hours under the blazing sun. We traded our warm coat for the ability to not overheat. It was a great deal, as long as you stayed somewhere warm. And for a very long time, that's exactly what we did. In the warm cradle of Africa, being naked was no problem at all. The sun was plenty, the nights were mild, and a bare body kept you cool during the day. Our ancestors lived, hunted, and raised families for hundreds of thousands of years without a stitch of clothing. Clothes simply weren't necessary yet. So what changed? Here's where the detective work gets genuinely brilliant. Clothing is made of animal hides and plant fibers, which rot away, so ancient clothes almost never survive for us to find. For ages, nobody could figure out when we started wearing them. And then scientists found the answer in the last place you'd look: head lice. It turns out humans have a special kind of louse that only lives in clothing. By studying the DNA of these clothing lice and working out when they split off from ordinary head lice, researchers pinpointed roughly when clothes appeared, somewhere around 100,000 years ago, give or take. So 100,000 years ago, something pushed us to cover up. And the number one reason was brutally simple: cold. This was the era of the Ice Age, and even more importantly, it was when humans began their great journey out of warm Africa and into the freezing unknown, the icy plains of Europe, the mountains of Asia, eventually the frozen edges of the Arctic. A naked, fur-less ape walking into a snowstorm is a dead ape. To survive those places, we needed a coat. And since we'd thrown ours away, we had to build a new one. And where did that new coat come from? The animals that were already wearing the good stuff. Early humans took the thick furs and hides of the animals they hunted, scraped them clean, and draped them over their shoulders. It was crude, it was heavy, and it probably smelled incredible, but it worked. For the first time, a tropical animal could wrap itself in borrowed warmth and walk straight into the cold. Clothing wasn't fashion, it was survival technology. This changed everything. Clothing became the technology that unlocked the entire world. With warm hides on our backs, humans could suddenly survive in places that would have killed a naked ape in a single night. We spread into frozen Europe, across the icy steppes of Asia, and eventually into the brutal Arctic itself. No other primate did this. A monkey can't move to Siberia, but a human with a good coat can live almost anywhere on Earth. Clothes didn't just keep us warm, they let us take over the planet. But draped hides could only get you so far. The next great leap was a tiny, humble invention that was an absolute game changer: the sewing needle. Around 50,000 years ago, humans carved fine needles out of bone, complete with a little eye to thread sinew through. Suddenly, instead of just draping a hide and hoping, people could stitch multiple pieces together into fitted, tailored clothing: snug sleeves, closed seams, actual boots. This was the difference between a blanket and a coat. The needle let us seal out the cold completely, and it is one of the most underrated inventions in all of human history. Want to see just how good ancient clothing got? Meet Ötzi, a man who died in the Alps around 5,300 years ago and was frozen in a glacier, clothes and all. And his wardrobe was seriously impressive. He wore a coat stitched from multiple animal hides, leggings, a loincloth, a bearskin hat with a chin strap, and shoes insulated with grass. He even had a woven grass cloak for the rain. This wasn't some caveman in a rag. This was a person in a carefully engineered, layered, all-weather outfit. 5,000 years ago, humans already knew how to dress for the mountains. Warmth was the main event, but clothing quickly proved useful for a lot more than just the cold. A good hide protected your skin from thorns, rocks, and scrapes as you pushed through rough country. It shielded you from a brutal sun in the desert. It padded you against injury. In a world without doctors, where a bad cut could get infected and kill you, a layer of tough leather between your skin and the environment was genuinely life-saving. Clothing became a portable shelter you could wear. And then almost immediately, humans being humans, clothing stopped being purely practical and started getting fancy. Because a coat isn't just warm, it's visible. It's a billboard. Very early on, people began decorating themselves, stringing beads onto their clothes, dyeing hides with colorful ochre, adding shells, teeth, and feathers. What you wore instantly started to say something about you, how skilled a hunter you were, how important, which group you belonged to. Clothing became the very first way to show off without saying a word. This is where clothing revealed its real superpower. It became a language. A chief or a skilled hunter could wear something grander to signal their rank. Different tribes developed different styles, so you could tell friend from stranger at a glance. Clothing marked who was married, who was in mourning, who was ready for battle, who was celebrating. Long before writing, what you wore told your entire story to everyone who saw you. That's still true today. Your outfit is talking about you right now. Now notice what we haven't said yet: shame. A lot of people assume humans put on clothes to cover up out of modesty. But that idea gets the story completely backwards. The evidence is clear that we dressed for warmth, protection, and status first, for tens of thousands of years. And the whole concept of covering the body out of modesty came much, much later, and it's entirely cultural. Different societies drew the line in wildly different places, and many wore very little at all. Modesty didn't invent clothing. Clothing, eventually, invented modesty. As humans spread across every climate on Earth, clothing bloomed into 1,000 different forms. In the frozen Arctic, people engineered incredible layered fur parkas and waterproof boots from seal skin. In scorching deserts, they wrapped themselves in loose, flowing fabric to keep the sun off while staying cool. In steamy jungles, they wore almost nothing at all. Each environment demanded a different solution, and humans, endlessly clever, invented all of them. The naked ape had become a master of dressing for anywhere. And through all of this, clothing became woven into what it even means to be human. It's no longer just about not freezing. It's culture, art, identity, and self-expression. It's the uniform that tells you someone's job, the outfit that marks a wedding or a funeral, the style that says, "This is who I am." We took a solution to a simple problem, being cold, and turned it into one of the richest, most expressive parts of human life. Not bad for a species that started out completely naked. So why did ancient humans start wearing clothes? Not out of shame and not out of fashion. We did it because we made a strange bargain long ago. We gave up our fur to survive the African heat, and then, when we marched out into the cold to conquer the world, we had to reinvent that coat from scratch, out of hides and needles and pure ingenuity. Clothing kept us warm, kept us safe, and then quietly became one of the great canvases of human culture. You are the naked ape that dressed itself, and in doing so, dressed itself for absolutely everywhere. If that changed how you see your closet, and you want more of history's strangest true stories told straight, subscribe. See you in the next one.